Albert, prometiste que volvías a hacer aventura conmigo y encima en León y has venido.
Me lo pasé bien, tengo que volver. No me podía quedar en casa.
Nada más empezar, ya estoy feliz.
¿Sí?
Y me hiciste caso. Mira qué colorín que has metido, que te veo la camiseta por fuera, el forro amarillo así. Tú mira cómo vamos de guapines.
Elegante.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the world today, if we really look at the statistics, the world would not seem more sustainable than when I started my career more than 20 years ago. So let's look at some of the statistics. So currently the Earth is only 8.6% circular. And we currently live on the resources of 1.75 Earth. And then we all know that climate change continues to accelerate. But I'm nevertheless optimistic because what has changed is that sustainability has made it on the agenda of companies and governments worldwide and is increasingly becoming part of strategies and ways of operating businesses. And I'm also observing throughout the past decade in particular that there's an increased awareness doing from less bad to going to more good and really thinking, what does it mean to make a positive impact on the planet and for society? So everything is interconnected, economy, society, and also the planet. And what is important is that we work towards a growing inclusive economy so that all needs of people are met. At the same time, of course, we have to recognize that there are planetary boundaries and that the resources of the Earth are finite. So we need to change our approach to the economy. It needs to be an economy that is regenerative and that is circular by design. And on the other hand, we also need to redefine what value in an economic system means. Definitively. We need to have a much more holistic way of measuring progress. So taking environmental and social considerations into account besides the economic indicators and factors. And the positive impact here is an important progress measurement tool as well. So taking into account the impact that is being made on the ecosystems and also the society. That goes really hand in hand with a new definition of value. Certificates and also certifications, they play a very important role for setting a level playing field for companies in the fashion industry, and also to be able to communicate progress and positive impact to consumers. But as you rightly point out, it is really essential that these certificates are credible. And what we consider here important is that certifications are science-based. So that typically establishes a lot of trust in certifications. We also need to look at how certifications are being developed. So the best practice here is a multi-stakeholder process that is very vigorous, that is transparent. And then certifications, in order to be trustworthy, they need to have an independent third-party verification behind it. And then it's, of course, important to look really at meaningful communication also in the fashion industry, that any claims that are being made are really rooted in the verification and in the science. So there is big potential for certificates and certifications to really help also accelerate the fashion industry towards more sustainability and circularity overall. It's important that the whole supply chain needs to work together to drive the systems transformation that we urgently need in the fashion industry. And we observe that there's a lot of innovation mindset and continuous improvements at the manufacturer side. So manufacturers very often are the first who really demonstrate and show what can be done and how a more sustainable and circular fashion industry can look like. The upstream needs to be on board in order to specify, in order to purchase, and in order to choose the more sustainable and circular solutions that manufacturers are bringing forward. And definitely there is more pressure also coming from society, from shareholders and the government that is felt and applied throughout the entire supply chain. Absolutely. It is possible. We are seeing it in practical examples also in the industry. What this requires, however, is that circular thinking is considered right from the outset of the product development. So right in the design, so that products are designed to be put into a full circular economy. The other critical factor is even in the product development stage, that materials are chosen that can easily contribute to a circular economy, that can easily be used to make also new products out of them. And the other important step where we still have a big gap nowadays for 100% circularity is that the infrastructure in the supply chain needs to be in place to bring the apparels, the textiles back into a full loop. It all starts first with mindset. And a barrier is that often the circularity thinking has not made it throughout the company in the different departments and might not have made it to the C-suite. So it's really important that circularity is part of the business strategy of a fashion company. That is sometimes still a barrier if circularity is considered in isolation as a single project that might be driven by product development or innovation. Another barrier is still the design concepts. Many of the design concepts we see today, they are set up for a linear economy, for take, for make, for waste, basically. And all the design thinking needs in the end to be circular thinking. And then I mentioned already the importance of the infrastructure, and this infrastructure in the supply chain requires collaboration foremost for reverse logistics. And there are still gaps that need to be addressed in terms of right partners and right solutions. So in our point of view, always at the design stage. So really designing the products for a technical or a biological cycle to become circular, and then choosing materials that have recycled content, that have, responsibly sourced renewable content, and then can also be then easily separated for different lives of the product. So design and material choices, this is where it all begins. For fashion companies, it will also be important to look at supply chain collaborations. So to find the right partners in terms of manufacturers, suppliers, companies in the supply chain that can help them along the journey of closing the cycle, because this is something none of the fashion companies can do by themselves. I always recommend to bring in the latest science and the latest scientific findings into decision makings. And academia and scientists play a very important role also in showing us forthcoming trends and forthcoming innovations. So we see a lot of potential, in particular for circular innovations for the industry and the academia working together, spearheading latest thinking, prototyping them, and then bringing it to the market. Companies will have to change not only the business models, but also the operating models and also their supply chain models. So the operating and the business models will have to be much more oriented towards customers and consumers. So really taking reuse aspect, recycle aspects into account, thinking about, products as a service, and also setting up opportunities for repair. So that is something intrinsically linked to a business model, but also to an operational model of the companies. And then there is the supply chain model that is also linked to their companies' setups, to their strategy, to their policy, and that also needs to be looked at and evolved in order to realize a circular economy at scale. The topic of sustainability is really a very interconnected topic that spans, local initiatives, regions, and also, international initiatives. I like to speak of a global economy that is needed for a sustainable and circular economy. So really taking local and global considerations into account. And we definitely need to act more locally, but think more globally on the overall impact our actions and decisions in the sector have on the world and on the society.
Albert, prometiste que volvías a hacer aventura conmigo y encima en León y has venido.
Me lo pasé bien, tengo que volver. No me podía quedar en casa.
Nada más empezar, ya estoy feliz.
¿Sí?
Y me hiciste caso. Mira qué colorín que has metido, que te veo la camiseta por fuera, el forro amarillo así. Tú mira cómo vamos de guapines.
Elegante.